Good evening, everybody. We'll start with today's session. Yes, we were discussing regarding the Kant's philosophy and chapter number 4, and part of it already we have discussed in last session. He was discussing about the aphorism 3. In his lecture number 3, he has tried to explain the knowledge of disease, indication, knowledge of medicinal powers, the choice of the remedy, the medicine indicated, the proper dose, and repetition of the dose. And last knowledge, that is the obstacles in the process of recovery. Along with that, he tried to explain some parts regarding it in this chapter. In this chapter means in this lecture. And he explained that all those things according to the proper rules, proper doctrines, proper principles. And one must know these principles. If you know the principles properly, there is no need to have an opinion. It is not a doctrine of it is not the science which is science of experience, but it is the science which is specifically a science of experimentation, and results are there, the principles are there. And that's why whenever we used to treat patient, it is according to the all 7 cardinals principles of homeopathy along with Hering's law of direction of cure. And one must know all those laws by his heart, everything, and then he has to just follow those. If he follows those in every case, then he definitely get a success. There is no question of taking the opinions or experience. So homeopathy is not the medicine of experience, but he has criticized the allopathy over there. It is the medicine of experience where no principles or doctrines are present. So we are discussing what is there in homeopathy, and he explained that there is a one must understand how the disease develops from center to periphery, and he's trying his level best to explain it with different examples how it governs from the center. So he has explained that everything is governed by the brain from the cerebrum, from the cerebrum to the cerebellum, then the spinal cord, and every action is coordinated right from them. The disease when has to happen, it used to happen in the similar manner from the center to periphery. And if cure has to happen, it should be from the center to periphery. So certain aspects related with it we have discussed in yesterday's lecture. Let us go with the next paragraph of it. In our civil government, we see the likeness of this. Let any great disturbance come upon our government at Washington, and see how, like lightning, this is felt to the circumference of the nation. How the whole country becomes shaken and disturbed as if by disease, if it is an evil government. So he is comparing it with the government, the political government from America. We used to compare it with India. So if anything happens in the center, the reflection is there at the periphery. In the similar manner, in the human government, if something happens at the center, at the core, at the level of will and understanding, it reflects at periphery. So how the whole country becomes shaken and disturbed as if by disease, if it is an evil government. If the government be good, we observe it in the form of improvement, and everybody is benefited by it. If an if in the great centers of commerce, London, Paris, or New York, some great crash or crisis takes place, how the very circumference that depends upon the centers is shaken, as it were, by the disease. So same thing happens. The same is position of the stock market. Something has happened extra day at the America, the center space, the periphery immediately gets affected. Everywhere the share rates came down. So whenever the center gets affected, every reflection comes at the periphery. In the similar manner, whenever the center is at fault in the human being, it reflects in the form of some peripheral problems, and that reflects in the form of signs and symptoms. Every little political office depends upon Washington, and that order must preserved most thoroughly. The sheriff and the constable, the judge and the courts are little governments dependent upon the law that is formed by the state. The law of state would be nothing if the center of our governments at Washington were Dethorn म्हणजे removed from the place, सिंहासनावरून काढून टाकणे. Washington were dethroned by another nation. All the law and principles in Pennsylvania depended upon the permanency and orderliness of the government in Washington. And there is a series from Washington to Harrisburg and from Harrisburg to Philadelphia. There can be no broken link. So he is comparing his with his own country. Same is true. It is the same thing. Right from the center, from the Delhi to every particular state to the particular district to the particular town. So this is from center to periphery. Government works in the similar manner. The similar manner human government works. It works from the center to periphery, right from the will and understanding to the brain to the peripheral parts, organs, and organs to the tissues and to the cells. In the similar manner, it works. So he's explaining that this order is very important. In human body, this order is important. So something happens at the center, reflects at the periphery. It is now seen what is to be understood by order and directions, and that there are directions. Nothing can flow in from the outermost to affect the innermost. He's explaining it in very clearly that order is from center to periphery. So something at periphery never affects the center, but something happens at the center reflects the periphery. Disturb one of the courts in Philadelphia, and this does not disturb the country or the constitutional government. If the finger is burned, this does not to any great extent disturb the constitutional government of man, but the constitutional government repairs it. See, very nicely has explained it. If there is something happens at your finger, it will not cause directly a something at the center, but center will cure that, repair that, whatever is fault at the periphery. It is not a disease. It does not rack the whole frame. It is only that which shakes the whole economy, disturbs the government, which is disease. So man may have his hand cut off without the system being disturbed. But let the little disease, measles, for example, flow from the center and his whole economy is racked. So he is giving very typical example. If your hand is removed, it will not cause so much of problem to the whole human being. But if measles, which attacks centers, which affected the whole human being, reflects, then whole human being gets affected. This is too important. One has to understand this order. If the disease develops at center and reflects at periphery, it should be treated at the center only. And this is the order one must understand. So he's making it more and more simple to understand. Old-fashioned medicine talks of experience, but it is entirely dependent on the eyes and fingers. Appearances are wonderfully deceptive. Deceptive म्हणजे फसवणे. What he is explaining it very simple manner. The whatever old old school looks, it looks with the fingers, it looks with the eyes, it tries to touch, it tries to observe what change is there at the periphery. And their whole treatment is related with that. If they finds it out, there is a gangrene at the tip of finger, they consider because of which the person is deceased. They remove the finger. They never considers it is because something has happened in center and this is the result. But they considers it is something which has happened at the periphery and which reflected with the center. So they remove that periphery, which never cures the patient. And this is the difference between the two thoughts and two different understandings regarding the concept of a disease. If you examine any acute miasm, you may know that it looks like, but the essay of it cannot be discovered by any of the senses. So acute miasm is a very simple example. Acute miasm, these are very specifically affects human being. Hahnemann have utilized this terminology very specifically for the viral diseases, for bacterial diseases, where it affects the whole human being and it reflects it is generally communicable. It goes from one person to another person. and it affects the whole human economy, and it works at the center, reflects in the periphery. It reflects as an acute attack on the center. We have seen that everything is governed from the center. Now, what comes in the direction of law? What comes from the principle, comes from the center, is flowing in accordance with order, and can be confirmed by experience. To apply it more practically, what we learned from the use of law of homeopathics, what we observe after learning, that law and doctrines that relate to it, all our subsequent experience confirms the principles. For example, every experience with Bryonia makes Bryonia so much brighter in mind. With experience, one grows stronger. One does not change or alter with every mood, but becomes firmly established. So, what is explaining? Is explaining that this order is there. The principles are so strong with homeopathy. You are just confirming it when you utilize the homeopathy. This order is fixed because this is natural order. So you have to understand the medicinal action in the similar manner. You have to understand the disease in the similar manner, and you have to just correlate whatever the patient symptomatology is there with the remedy symptomatology or medicinal symptomatology. When you have a Bryonia provings will going to remain the same. It will not alter as you confirm it again and again. It will be only confirmation makes you strong about the Bryonia whenever you treat the patient with the Bryonia. So luckily the same remedy which we are going to discuss in today evening is Bryonia. So he has given the same example over there. That if we know Bryonia properly, the Bryonia whole totality we know, whole materia medica we know. And if we have a patient who is showing similar symptoms to it, we apply the Bryonia and it becomes more confirmed in our mind regarding the Bryonia. It will not change yet. Yes, Bryonia picture will going to change every year. It is not like that. Because we have proved it in the similar manner as the disease happens. Our remedy acts at the center and reflects in the periphery. The order is fixed. It will not going to change. So Bryonia makes the Bryonia so much brighter in our mind. With experience, one grows stronger and one does not change or alter with every mood, but becomes firmly established. If everything tends to disturb the mind, that means that you are in a state of folly or that you are insane, maybe little of both. A man that relies on experience to guide him never knows. His mind is constantly changing, never settled. It has no validity. So he's explaining, if you are fixed with your principles, there is no question of experience matters over here, because you, even though you get experience for years together, your confirmation about the remedy becomes more and more stronger, but it will not change the thought in your mind. But if there is no principle, if there is no specific doctrine, and it is just on the basis of experience you are using, that every time your experience will change, because there is no fixity, there is no rigidity in your laws. And this is what he is explaining. A man that relies on experience to guide him never knows. His mind is constantly changing, never settled. It has no validity. Validity is something absolutely essential in the science. And this is too important. There is a validity to the homeopathic principles. Since last 300 years, 250 years, more than 250 years, they are fixed. Sorry for disturbance. There was problem with internet again. Something is wrong going on in Sangamner in internet services. That's why it happens. Okay, we're discussing about this, that a man that relies on experience to guide him never knows. His mind is constantly changing, never settled. It has no validity. Validity is something absolutely essential to the science. It is necessary for homeopaths to look upon laws as valid, not upon man. See, very important thing. What he says, it is necessary for homeopaths to look upon the laws. It is very important to be fixed on laws, not upon the man, as there is no man valid. In homeopathy, it is the very principle itself that is valid. And things that are not in accordance with principle should not be admitted. So, if something is not according to the principle, it should not be considered valid. It should not be admitted. It should not be utilized. And if you are thorough with this, then you are damn sure about your success. You must follow them properly. Only thing is that understand them properly. Understanding is very much necessary. We see from all this the necessity of potentization. Now he's turning towards the potentization and importance of potentization. All causes are so refined in character, so subtle in their nature, that they can operate from center to circumference, operate upon man's interior, and from interior to the very exterior. The coarse things cannot permeate the skin. What he says? The coarse things cannot permeate the skin. So if you want to put something hard material inside your body directly through the skin, it will not permeate. Man's skin is an envelope. See how nicely he has explained. Man's skin is like an envelope, protecting him against the contagion from coarser material. So nothing enters in your body so easily. But against the immaterial substances, he is protected only when he is in perfect health. Underline this sentence. With material, you can protect it. But with the dynamics, you are not unless you are in the state of it. Then you have to understand what is the state of. Again, there was a disturbance. Let it be. We have to continue. So see how nicely he has explained about the things that if you are in a state of health, then you never gets affected by dynamic things. What exactly it means? It means that whenever something happens against your will, something dynamic, inimical thing happens in your life, what will happen? If something dynamic happens in your life, for example, someone says no to you, someone scolded you in front of people, someone scolded you, someone have said something to you, what happens? It reflects to your center. You become disturbed. Your ego becomes disturbed. You starts reacting. But your vital principle, vital force, if it is in health, after some time you cool down and again comes to the normal. This is how you are protected till you are in a state of health. But if your mind is not in a state of health, if you are not in a proper healthy state, then you react in aggressively to the situation. And when you react aggressively, that reflects in the form of disease.